to Out of the Box Radio with me, your host, Christine Blosdale. Out of the Box Radio is a weekly podcast of audible ear candy dedicated to bringing a fresh perspective on this thing that we call life. And each and every week, we're going to be diving into the topics that matter most with lively conversations on issues such as health, wellness, and transformational healing, all with the goal of creating a better world and becoming a happier human being. I will be your tour guide for this epic adventure, and each and every week we're going to be embarking on a journey with the ultimate goal being transformation to our highest potential. And now, let's get out of the box. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Out of the Box with Christine. I am your host, of course, Christine Blosdale, and I am so happy. I am jazzed about today's show, and so I'm really happy that you tuned in. You got to tell your friends about the show. You got to share the show when it's over. Please do, because my guest is a phenomenal woman, just a genius. Her name is Suzy Prudden, and she is the co-founder of ITTY BITTY Publishing, and her story, her life story, is absolutely inspiring. It's something that I think so many of us need to hear right now. But her publishing company, she put together with her sister, Joan, and they wrote the original book was the Itty Bitty Weight Loss book. And they discovered this amazing, unique blend of publishing and business opportunity together. And since they founded the Itty Bitty Publishing company, they have, well, she's going to tell you the success of this 15 simple, informative steps by experts in their field of all kinds. And I'm so excited to welcome to Out of the Box with Christine, Suzy Prudden. Suzy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you for that fabulous introduction.
Well, I didn't even get into the whole thing about how at age 2 you took the stage, and it was... But
yeah, people ask me, why am I so comfortable on stage? I said, well, I've been performing since I'm 2.
Please tell our listeners that story, because I before we get into the nitty gritty about the itty bitty, I love to let people know, where our guests, where they come from, how they got to where they are today. And I saw your TED Talk, by the way, and that was phenomenal. I would love for you to give our listeners an idea of how you got to where you are today. And I know it's a little Reader's Digest version, but if you don't...
How much time do we have?
You're a great storyteller. You know how to do it.
I know. Okay, so when I was 2, first of all, my mother was the nation's foremost fitness authority. She started a fitness school in 1947 when I was 4. But before that, she used to just invite kids over and teach them movement. And then we would put on shows. And when I was 2, the person who was supposed to lead the elephants across the stage or something like that didn't show up. So my mother put the mask on me and said, go. So I did. And I've been going ever since. And it's interesting because I'm nervous every time I'm on stage. And I've literally been on stage off and on since I'm 2. The first time I did the Today Show, I think I was 13. It was 14. It was in 1954 when the Today Show actually did 2 broadcasts because there wasn't the connection yet between East and West Coast.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was live then twice. It was live for the New York show and then for the California show. That was with Dave Garroway, and I did that in 1954. That was the first time. And then my career is amazing, and it all happened serendipitously, if I pronounced that word correctly.
Yes, you did.
Oh, good. And everything I've done has been like magic. And I've had super successes, unbelievable successes, where I had my own show on NBC in New York when I was a fitness expert, doing what my mother taught me. And written 14 books. And my name, I started my first company when I was 22 in New York City, was a fitness school. And my name has been on everything. And so 4 years ago, when my sister and I were working on because I was in weight loss for a while. I'm skipping all over the place. We wrote a book. We were told to write a small book, and we wrote a small book. We've never written small books before, and we were in the weight loss industry. We called it Suzy Prudden's Itty Bitty Weight Loss Book, and we did the usual 2,000 copies that you bought in 2006. I think I had 1,800 left, and it was an ugly book, and it was a good book informationally. It was a bad book in terms of it didn't look very good.
Mm-hmm.
So my sister, who had been doing publishing while I ran the coaching business, I asked her if she'd change the cover and make it a little smaller, and she did. And the cover was good because we'd used it in advertising and I'd seen that it worked. But what I didn't notice right at the beginning, and then I noticed it, was she took my name off the cover. It wasn't Suzy Prudden's Itty Bitty Weight Loss Book. It was Your Amazing Itty Bitty Weight Loss Book. My ego had a moment. And then as I'm looking at it, I said, do you want my name off? She said, I don't care. And I'm looking, I said, actually, I called my sister Petey. Her name is Joan. And the reason she's Petey to me is my mother wanted 5 boys. She's the oldest, and so she was supposed to be Peter. So we always called her Petey.
Oh, cute.
And she said, I don't care. And I looked at it, and I said, actually, this is $1 million business, and we don't have to write the books.
Yeah.
And we were in business 4 days later. We had our first author 2 weeks later. We had our first published book 6 weeks later. I don't know. I honestly don't know how many books we have up. I think about 70 now up online. We're 4 years old. We've done 51 bestseller campaigns. We have 51 bestsellers. We're doing our 52nd this week. And I know it's going to make bestseller within hours. It's on Alzheimer's.
Oh, wow.
What excites me about Itty Bitty is that when I meet somebody and they tell me what they do, I automatically see it as an itty bitty book that can turn into a multi-million-dollar business.
Mm. And isn't that beautiful in this day and age, too?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because it's going to be the entrepreneur, seriously, that saves this country.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be the woman entrepreneur.
Oh, let's talk about that, Suzy, because I've got to say in the last 2 years, there has been an explosion of women entrepreneurs who, either they've been underemployed or they've been employed and not appreciated or not paid what they're worth. Or they have had that moment where they say, you know what, why am I working for someone else and not, and I dread on Mondays driving into work, or they have another passion that they don't get to express and gift to the world because they're told, well, you gotta pay the bills, you gotta be responsible, you can't do that, you need to do this, a 9 to 5, all those stories that we tell ourselves, right? Those beliefs, you have to struggle and work really hard in order to be successful. In the last 2 years, and I would especially this last year, there has just been an explosion of women entrepreneurs really getting out there and becoming extremely successful.
Yes, extremely successful, and multi-million dollars and billion-dollar businesses. And it's really about giving yourself permission to step out there. And one of the problems that women face is that they've been told that they're not supposed to do that. I was very, very lucky growing up in that my mother was an entrepreneur, even though she didn't know it. And I watched her struggle, but I didn't get where the struggle was. It just was there. But here she was, a woman in the 50s in business on her own.
That was unheard of.
It was unheard of. So I didn't have we had a housekeeper who made the cookies, not my mother, when I came home from school.
Right.
My mother was in business, and she was very, very successful. She helped start the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports.
Wow.
And in the 76, she created a healing modality called myotherapy, which erases 98% of all pain that's caused in the muscular system.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a backache, you'd go to her and she'd stick her elbow in your butt and a couple of other places, and on your lower back and on your thigh or wherever. She created this whole system that healed. And she's quite an amazing role model. And whenever she was tired of one thing, she just made up something else, which is kind of what I do.
I love that. You adapt. You adapt, and your perception on what is possible, probably because you saw that with your mom, is really unique. And if you don't mind, I would love for you to tell our listeners, you had an interesting, you have an interesting childhood. Your family was quite wealthy, correct?
I was born very rich. I love to start my seminars with that.
I was born very rich. That's the best opening line.
It really is. It really is. Boy, do I catch people by surprise. It's like most of the time it's I was born under a cabbage patch. No, I was born rich, and I mean really rich. and I was a one percenter. And but at the same time, my family was very nice. My grandfather's parents owned the richest private bank in Europe, and which saved them during the Holocaust, because my grandfather used to go over to Germany during the war with falsified visas and get Jews out. And when it came time to get the family out, the Nazis took the bank, and my grandfather took the family and got 31 of them out.
Wow.
But I was brought up with chauffeurs and houses in various parts of the U.S. and Florida, Vermont, Westchester County outside New York. My mother built her house in Massachusetts. And I had summers in Wyoming and Colorado and Europe and boarding schools. And when I was in college, my mother told me very mistakenly that I couldn't date the boy I was dating, so I married him.
As you do.
What else do you do, right? And then figure it out. And it was very hard because we had no money. He went back to school, and it was my job to support him. And then we decided to have a baby at the same time. This was 2 years into the marriage. I had worked at menial jobs. I didn't have any skills. But I knew the last job I had, I was a gal Friday, and I was fired in April, and I decided I didn't want to work for anybody ever again. So what my husband and I did is we decided we were going to open up an art gallery in Massachusetts near where I went to school and where my mother's house was. So we were living in Greenwich Village, and we put an ad in the Village Voice. I haven't told this story. Put an ad in the Village Voice looking for art on consignment. Well, we filled an art gallery. And then we went up to Massachusetts and spent the summer there selling art. And came back to New York, and I had to figure something out, so I started teaching exercise, and I asked my mother if I could use her name, and she said yes. We lived in a 5-flight walk-up, and I figured everybody got in shape just walking up to my apartment. And I started there, and then we moved to the Upper West Side, and my business just began to grow. And then one of my clients, this is a wonderful story, one of my clients asked me, you'll get such a kick out of this, if she could invite a friend to come watch my classes. I had 2 classes, one for toddlers and one for mothers and children. And I said, sure. And she said she works for the Times. And I said, fine. I didn't know anything. So she brings a reporter from the New York Times and a photographer who spend 3 hours with me, 2 watching my classes and 1 talking. And I hadn't washed my hair. I had a hole in my tights. I didn't have any makeup on. I didn't know. 3 weeks later, there's a 3/4-page story in the New York Times.
Holy moly.
And 3 large photographs. I had 12 students the day the reporter came to my studio. I rented it by the hour. 3 days after the article, I had 75.
Yes.
And an assistant.
And an assistant. Well, yeah, because you had to have somebody help you with all those people.
I was just, and then that was, and it just grew. And then of course, once the Times does an article on you,
Then
somebody else wants to do, and then
of
somebody
course.
else wants to do,
Yes.
and then AP wanted to, and it was miraculous. And so I became an overnight success after, I don't know, 3 years of struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are millions of stories. One of my favorite, which I did tell in my TED Talk, was that after I did fitness, I went into the body-mind technology pioneering. I mean, I was way ahead of people in the 80s talking about the body-mind connection. And I met and became friends with Louise Hay.
Oh.
And she used to come over to my house and we'd exercise together. And one time we were exercising and her hip hurt. And I said, well, you wrote the book on it. What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah, I forgot what she told me. I think something about balance. She was out of balance somewhere. I don't know. And I had this brilliant idea. I said, Louise, why don't we do a video together? I'll do the exercises and you do the affirmations for the body parts. And so we did. And then I wrote a book called Meta Fitness, which is the book that got me on the Oprah show.
Wow.
And the show was all about how the body and the mind work together. And this is the best part. 8 months later, I was homeless.
Whoa.
Yep. I did not know how to handle that. And I wasn't paying attention to money. And I wasn't making any at the time. A little here, a little there. But when you have that kind of explosion in your career, you need people around you to help you.
Yes.
And I didn't have any. I didn't have a team.
Right.
So I ended up homeless, which was a fascinating experience because I was a famous person.
Who came from a very rich family.
And now I'm broke and homeless. And I knew it was a gift from God. And I knew it. It was sort of like, well, you have some stuff to learn, Suzy. And if you're not going to listen one way or another, I guess you're going to have to listen this way.
Wow.
And so I spent 10 months being very creative. And I never was on the street. I always had a friend's place to stay. I never was in my car. But, for example, I would drive into Rancho La Puerta on a Saturday morning. It's a 5-star spa in Tecate, Mexico, because I was going to be teaching there because I'm famous.
All right.
And drive in on Saturday morning, seriously not knowing where I was going to be sleeping the following Saturday night. And I did that for 10 months, and it was a fascinating experience. I ended up in Maui, teaching for 2 weeks, and then going to school there for 6 weeks.
You relied upon your imagination and also knowing that you were going to be okay, right?
Yes, I did. And I trusted God. Mm-hmm. And I used to say, okay, God, where do you want me?
Where do you want me? Yes.
Where do you want me? What do you want me to do? And I had some pretty scary experiences, but I always knew that there was support there. Gary Zukav, who wrote the Dancing Woolly Masters and Seed of the Soul, we were presenting at a conference together in Northern California. We were having dinner. And I don't know how this topic came up. And he said, so what did you do, Suzy? How did you do it? And without thinking, I said, I leaned back into the arms of God. And I think that for a lot of people, that's woo-woo, but it's not. It's like, it just made sense to me. I am not a quote-unquote religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person.
Yes.
And it really felt right. And I did not feel as if I was going to fall off the planet.
Indeed, you didn't. And look where you're at right now. What you're doing, and you know what you're doing with the Itty Bitty books is you're also allowing others to have that experience of being a best-selling author, of getting their story out and helping others. And this is what's so exciting about about the work that you do, because it's not just about you. And this is why I wanted you on the show too, because there's a lot of, you can have a lot of people, men and women, who are very successful in their career, whatever it is, if it's sports or politics or health. That's great. That's wonderful. But I really love people who help other people become successful in life. To me, that's a job, or that's a profession that I think is a gift in itself, because it's amazing to see this happen with others. So will you explain to people too a little bit about itty bitty books and this whole publishing idea, and maybe some of the people that you've worked with and that you have published who've become best-selling authors, some of the topics that they've covered.
It is so much fun. First of all, I'm a business strategist, and I'm also a hypnotherapist and a coach. And so I bring all of my tools to the table. And when I'm working with an author, first of all, our authors are not, quote, authors per se, in that their profession is not writing. They are experts in a particular field.
Yes.
So, for example, we're doing a bestseller campaign this week, and the book is on Alzheimer's. The gentleman who wrote the book, the doctor, is not an author, but he is a doctor, and he specializes in Alzheimer's. He's the perfect person to write this book.
Yes.
And his next book is he's also this is interesting, he's also an expert on CBD. So that's the next book he's working on.
Yay.
And then he's also an expert on the keto. The guy's a genius. So when I see that, I can be a little aggressive. And I'll say, you really have to write this book. It's 15 steps. It's 2 pages each. It's done this way. There's no story in it. It's about what it is you do and how people can read your book, get the information, and in 20 minutes. And then you take it, and you, as the author, create webinars, seminars, workshops, programs. You send people to your website. You have articles on your topic. You create a relationship, and this is important. You create a relationship with your reader.
Yes.
So they always want more. And by wanting more, I just spoke to one of my authors. He's we call him our golden boy. He actually was the second person to sign up to write an itty bitty book. This is funny. I met him at a workshop. We were having lunch, and I knew everybody there except him. And I was all excited because itty bitty was like 1 month old. And I had flyers. These were the first flyers I had. And I passed them out to everybody, and I'm jumping out of my chair. I'm so excited. He signed up, gave me his credit card, and said, I'm in. I didn't even know his last name. I just met him.
Right.
He's on his 4th book now.
Mm.
He has 2 bestsellers and 1 in the wings. He leaves on Friday for Australia. He's grown his business from $100,000 to $750,000 a year in 2.5 years. He goes to Australia now 6 times a year. He goes to England, where he teaches. He goes to Dubai, and this is from his itty bitty book.
Is he going? He's going to Australia to promote the book, or speaking in seminars?
No,
and things?
He's been hired to. He goes and does his sales training in various corporations in Australia.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Oh, I've just got goosebumps.
His itty bitty book, and he's so cute. He calls my sister and me his fairy godmothers.
Oh, you are.
And because he had no idea he could do this. And then another, I'm looking at my books. This is a wonderful story. I love my clients. I absolutely adore most of them.
I love how honest you are.
There's a couple that
yeah,
not easy. And but I look at it, it's that they're just people. And when they're upset, it's real to them. And so I have to really get out of my ego. Yeah. Which I tell you, being homeless after Oprah can really knock your ego around. Mm. And so I used to belong to an organization called CEO Space. We met in Las Vegas. 5 times a year for 7 days. And people came from all over the world, and it was a networking organization and a teaching organization. And the last day we have a very special event where people exchange cards, and they say what they need, they're looking for, and people give them cards. And this woman came up to me and, what are you looking for? I said, clients. I want to help you write a book. She said, I'd like to write a book. Called the following week. I'm very good at follow-up, follow-through. Called the next week, made an appointment, and I talked to her and I said, so tell me about yourself. She said, well, I'm a full-blooded gypsy. I said, okay. She said, I am a disabled vet. I said, okay. She said, I'm a spiritual teacher. I said, okay. And I'm a marijuana dispenser. I said, okay. What do you want to write about? She goes, I don't know. Spiritual coaching? And you know what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's the low-hanging fruit? She said, I don't know. I said, it's pot. Why don't you write the book, Your Amazing Itty Bitty Marijuana Book, 15 Ways to Use Cannabis for Healing?
Yes.
He said, how did you do that? I said, that's what I do. And then you're going to write the book, 15 Ways to Talk to Your Kids About Cannabis. Then you're going to write the book, 15 Ways to Use Edibles Correctly. Then you're going to create a certification program, and you're going to certify cannabis coaches. She said, I want to do Mary Jane parties. I said, so all of your cannabis coaches are certified to do Mary Jane parties. And so she did. Wow. And I went to her first cannabis coaching. I'm a certified cannabis coach. But I learned so much.
Yes.
It's a fascinating history. And she called me crying one day. I said, what's wrong? She said, these are happy tears. I said, what's making you happy? She said, I just sold 61 people into my cannabis coaching program and made $92,000.
92 grand.
Yeah. Now, granted, 1/3 of it went to product that she was giving people product, but I mean the paraphernalia that goes with cannabis. She wasn't selling pot itself.
Yes, right.
But it was just so fun. Now she's coming down here. I'm not quite sure, down here being Los Angeles, when we had a conversation a couple of days ago, and she's trying to figure out how to make it down here so we can put on a cannabis coaching program down here. The history of cannabis is fascinating.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. And the hemp, I mean, just the whole marijuana plant itself and hemp is phenomenal. And here now, the CBD, I mean, just the marketplace for CBD-based products is exploded.
Yes.
Because
That's
it
why
works.
I'm excited about our next book. We do have a CBD book, and now we're going to get another one. And it is a wonderful. Did you know that before marijuana was banned, farmers had to put aside 10% of their land to grow hemp?
No.
Because it was such a phenomenal product.
Well, it is. It grows like a weed. Hello.
Well, more than that is it's used. It was used in clothing, in healing,
paper products, right?
Paper products, and even Henry Ford built a car out of hemp.
Get it out of here.
Yep, and it was indestructible. They tried to smash it apart; it wouldn't smash apart. So hemp was very much in the way of the Industrial Revolution, so to speak, because the steel manufacturers didn't want it because it was stronger than steel. The drug companies didn't want it because
it worked.
It worked. And I learned all of this when I became a cannabis coach. Now, I have not done anything with it because I'm too busy publishing books, but that's an example of one of our books. Another one is a woman who specializes in QuickBooks, and she wrote a book on QuickBooks. She was at a conference, a QuickBooks conference, and she had her bookmark. She didn't have her book yet. She had a bookmark with a picture on it, and she's talking to a gentleman in the elevator, and about her 15-step QuickBooks book. And he said, well, what are you looking for? She said, I want to meet the man who books the speakers for QuickBooks. And he said, well, you're talking to him.
Wow.
So she started speaking for QuickBooks. Then another woman who was a hypnotherapist who used to give her Fridays to a homeless shelter and trying to shift the mindset of the women who were there so that they could get out and stay out and be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that was her give back. And she wrote the book and got a $25,000 grant.
Wow.
To do what she was doing for nothing. So these are the stories and the authors for me are real people.
They're people that they have experience or passion or not or wonderful knowledge. And here's the thing too, Suzy. Well, you already know this. The possibilities with the itty bitty books are endless.
Yep. Yep. It's endless. It boggles my mind. And because my mind goes into hyperspace when I'm talking to an author, I start rattling off ideas faster than they can. I just say, tape me, please, because I will not remember what I'm saying, and I know exactly where you have to go.
No, that's very, very smart to because you'll come up with an amazing idea, and if you do not write it, it'll escape that person's mind, and they'll go, "Oh my God, what was it that we said?
What was it? Can you repeat that? No.
Yeah, no.
No.
It was in a stream of consciousness. I
have the attitude, say yes and figure it out.
Yes. Yes.
And that's always what I've done. And with Itty Bitty, it was a God gift. Both my sister and I knew it the moment it happened. It was almost as if a light came into the room.
Well, it was a gift. It was a God gift to you and to your sister and to all of these wonderful people that now have a best-selling book. They can say, "I'm a best-selling author."
Yes.
And that immediately catapults them. And as we know from the wonderful Craig Duswalt, who's a marketing and branding genius, when you're an author, you are perceived as an expert in your field. And then all those other things, kind of like you said, you get booked for speaking engagements, and then more comes, and maybe the New York Times will come and do a photo shoot of you, right?
I'm ready.
Yes. You got your hair done now.
Now I know what I'm doing. I mean, I did 18 national tours because I wrote so many books, and it is a skill, and it really works. But the itty bitty, it wasn't. We didn't wake up that morning. My sister was visiting me over the holidays, thinking that we were going to be doing this company. It happened literally in a flash.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we've also created Legacy Press because some people really want to tell their whole story. And this is very funny. My sister hates story. She hates it. It's not even a mild dislike. And she voices her disapproval. And so I have some authors who really want to tell their story. And I don't really care. You want to tell your story and you want to pay me $5,000? I'll tell your story.
Exactly.
And then we'll market you. Because I have somebody who's just finished her book, and it's about the hell she went through with her husband, and how and it was really and her family and religion, and it was just, I read this book and I'm going, oh my God, it's amazing this woman's still alive. And now she's using all that experience to help people who are in similar situations,
which are
heal.
A lot. There are a lot. Yes.
Yeah, there are a lot. And so but her story is inviting people into her mindset, into her life, so she can come into their life to help them out of where they are to where they would like to go.
Well, and in that case too, you need the story, because you can't just do 15 simple steps to get away from your abusive husband. Well, I mean, there's an idea right there.
Oh,
the itty bitty get away from your abusive husband book. Oh, okay. We're not making light of this at all, but my goodness. Yes. Okay. So that's why the story was important, obviously, right? So that you draw the listener in. But I'm kind of with the mindset too with your sister. I like, and it's the social media mediaitis that we have, where we're so busy. We've got so many things going on, and we do absorb or consume information in smaller and smaller bites, and quick. And I do like and I also like the idea that that because it's the itty bitty book too, it can be. I feel a sense of accomplishment when I finish a book, and when it's a 300 or 400 page book, I'm not going to get through that thing, and then I always feel like there's something that has not been finished, and I like to cross things off my list. Are you a lister?
It's so much fun reading itty bitty books because 20 minutes, check. 20 minutes, check. What we looked at was the dummies books, and dummies books are 350 pages you have to read with a yellow highlighter.
Yes.
And itty bitty books are the yellow highlights.
And the paper on those dummy books is kind of funky too. What's up with that?
Cheap.
It's cheap. I know.
Well, we don't do cheap. We do whatever. Now we're working with KDP and Ingram Spark, so it's a fascinating business. Now I need to tell you the way my sister came to understand publishing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm 75 now. My sister's going to be 80. This is maybe 8 years ago. So she was about 72, 73. My sister has been a writer forever. And she's written a gazillion books, not that many, but many, and never published them, and didn't know how to do it, and was frustrated. And she's talking to a friend of hers who said, I have a friend who writes smut. She writes 2,500 to 3,000 words, short stories. She puts them up online. She makes about $300 or $400 a month. And my sister said, Self, I can do that.
I can write smut.
I can write smut. So she started writing stories, smut stories.
At 72?
At 72.
Oh, God, I love it.
And she said, Susie, I'm writing about stuff I don't even know anything about. And she's so funny. She loved creating characters, like she had the naughty nun,
mm-hmm.
and the something governess, and she loved the stories, the characters. She said the only boring part is the smut. It's just the same old stuff over and over again. It's just different characters, different places and stuff. And then she called me, and now she's learning the back end of publishing. Yeah. So, getting up on Kindle and Ashwords and Kobo and D2D and iTunes. There are different platforms, and she learned how to do that so that she could get her books up.
Wow. She learned how to do that at 72.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
She's still learning, and she's almost 80. And, but she doesn't write smut anymore. She said, God, it's so boring. And Itty Bitty came along just when she was leaving the smut arena. But she knew how to do the back end. And if you don't know how to do the back end, you can't publish.
No, you're right. And the technology and things change. And there's new ways of getting that information out, right? And distributing
yes.
it. Yeah.
And you should hear her when somebody changes something. She said, it worked. It used to work. Why did they have to change it? Now I have to learn a whole new system. She's so funny. She gets so angry. I said, it's just the way it is. They think they keep making something better, even though it's fine the way it is. I don't know.
Yes.
But because she learned how to do the back end, writing smut. You should have seen Craig when I introduced my sister to the group, and we introduced Itty Bitty, and I introduced my sister, and she said something, and her time was up, and she said, and I write smut. And the entire mastermind group and Craig was on stage. Everybody turned and went, what? And then Craig said, you cannot sit down.
You cannot.
You have to tell us. So she told the room, and it was funny. She said that she couldn't get out of the room to go to the ladies' room because too many people were coming up to her and asking her to tell them about it. It was really fun. And I used to tell her, I don't tell anybody, don't use my name, don't, because I'm supposed to be this famous person. I tell everybody now.
Little sibling. I love that sibling relationship that you have with her. What a joy, though, that not only are you helping all of the all of these amazing people get their work out and elevate them to becoming best-selling authors, but then you also get to work with your sister, who obviously you like.
I really do. I mean, she's probably the most brilliant person I know.
Oh wow.
And I know a lot of very, very smart people, but her mind it's so far out there. And I don't mean out there woo-woo. I mean in terms of ideas, and we have fascinating conversations.
You seem
when
to
we're talking to each other.
you seem to be a creating machine. I mean, the two of you. I would love to be a fly on the wall on just a regular conversation, or if you guys are just sitting around having lunch, the stuff that comes out of your mouths, I would love to hear.
It's quite extraordinary, and we have it was funny. We have a language of our own that we didn't know we had, and my cousin was visiting. This is a number of years ago when we shared an apartment for a while, and my cousin was visiting, and we were standing in the hallway, and my sister and I were having a conversation, and she said, "Yep, over," and I went, "Uh-huh, here," and my cousin is looking at my sister, looking at me, looking at my sister, looking at me, and she said, "Hold it. I know a very important conversation just occurred between the two of you, but I haven't got the vaguest idea what you two just said." And it didn't occur to us that we weren't talking in full sentences.
Yeah.
Well, we've been doing this a long time.
Oh, it's beautiful. I see a book. I see a book about the two of you as well. it's
that's
bound.
Interesting. I never thought of that. That could be a fun book.
Oh my goodness! Of course. Are you kidding?
And we didn't talk to each other for 15 years.
Oh.
We had a big fight.
Oh. Was it over men or money?
My ex-husband was not a very nice man.
Mm.
And my sister and I had a fight due to something, and it was just better for us not to talk to each other. So after I divorced him, she lived in Vermont, and I had a painting that belonged to her that my uncle, I'm giving you some really, really behind the scenes.
It's only you, me, and the listeners of Out of the Box with Christine.
So my uncle really didn't like my sister, so he gave me a painting that belonged to her. Oh. And I, of course, was not talking to her at the time, so I took it. And then I'm looking at it one day, and I thought, that does not belong to me.
Right.
And I went up to Vermont, where my uncle inherited my grandparents' house. My sister lived down the road in Vermont, and I took the painting with me. And on Friday or Saturday, whichever day I was there, I drove to her house. I knocked on her door, and I said, "I think this belongs to you." And she said, "Thank you. Would you like to come in for coffee?" And I said, "Sure." And in that moment, we became friends again.
Wow. And it had been how long before you had talked to her?
15 years.
15 years.
Yeah.
You imagine all of the itty bitty books you could have done if you would have.
We didn't have the skill set.
I'm just kidding. It was like a lob. That was a tennis lob up in the air. I had to take it. Folks, if you're just tuning in, my incredible, wonderful guest is Suzy Prudden, and she is the co-founder of Itty Bitty Publishing. We have been talking about, of course, how she got to this point in life, and of course all of the wonderful itty bitty books that are out in the world right now, and without giving too much away, because I know that you've got a lot of stuff in the hopper, so to speak, but you want to give our listeners an idea of maybe what the world can expect from Itty Bitty Publishing. Are there things that you want to do outside of what you have been doing? Because I know you're not going to rest on your laurels, so to speak.
Okay, so now I'll tell you, absolutely brilliant idea I had. I'm listening to my clients, and I say, why don't you, I tell them you have a very unique, this is very funny, you have a very unique idea, and you have a system that you created. Why don't you certify people in your system, have them teach your system and pay you for the certification and become, in your industry, whatever it is, like the Pilates and fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And they say to me, well, what gives me the right to certify? I said, because it's your system.
Oh, I love that.
And I know. And they kind of look at me like, yes, but I don't have the certification.
No, silly. Yeah. It's your system.
Pardon me?
But you nailed it on the head. It's your system.
Yeah. I mean, Pilates didn't have a certification to
Right.
create a Pilates certification. I mean, Pilates was Pilates.
Yes.
Zumba is Zumba. I mean, it's so funny. Jazzercise is jazzercise. Dancercise is dancercise. And they all have certifications. But they didn't go to a place where it says,
this is the official, the only certified. Right.
Yeah. This is the certification program to certify what you know.
That's why I see these ads too on social media for become certified, let's say, become a certified coach or life coach or consultant. But it's their certification for their program.
Yeah. So I've created a certification program.
Wait, what? My brain just snapped. Wait, you created a certification program.
So I certify people to certify their program.
Oh my God, you're brilliant.
And it's like, oh, thank you.
So you take them through the whole, because here's the thing. Let's say I've got a system, whatever it is, XYZ. I'm not going to know how to market that or how to make it a certification.
Right.
You teach people how to do that.
Yeah. And I made it, my sister and I made it up because we created a certification program for weight loss when I was in the weight loss industry. Right. It was our program.
Right.
And then we certified people to be, what would we call it? Pounds off certified practitioners. And they could teach the Pounds Off program.
Oh my God, Suzy, then there's so many things that you could certify people with.
Anybody who comes into me with a system that they made up can certify people in that system and then have people. So it's like Reiki. It's like NLP. It's like hypnosis. It's like Pilates. It's like Zumba. It's like dancercise. It becomes a tool in your toolbox.
Yes. A really nice tool.
A nice tool. And so if someone has something like Kat really does know the cannabis industry, and if you're going to people today especially really should get some coaching in how to use cannabis because it's very different than when I was 20 and 25 and smoking dope.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, I had a hit from my stepdaughter, one, and I'm thinking, OMG, this is about 2 years ago. I said, this is different.
Yeah.
And it was like, thank you very much. I'm done.
Yes. It's grown very differently. But also the CBD, even just the CBD aspects and without the THC, without anything like that. There's so many different strains, and to become certified with that, then if you have your own products, then you can have that as a glowing, added thing. But because there's 50 milligrams. What is a 50 milligram? What is this? What is a 500 milligram? All of the benefits and everything, the health benefits, that would be very important to be certified in that, I would think.
I think so too. That's why I told her to do it.
Oh my God.
What I have to do now is when I tell someone to do that and they're very successful, I should get a piece of the action because my ideas work.
Well, that's the key. That's the key. Well, you have to write that in somehow, Suzy.
Yeah, I'm trying. I am actually looking at it and trying to figure it out so it doesn't sound like I'm riding on their coattails. We're actually a team.
Yes. Yeah. I like that.
And that's what I like with my authors. It's like when Anthony called me earlier today. He's the gentleman who's going off to Australia on Friday, and I mean, we probably talked for 45 minutes, and I support him in whatever he's doing, and he supports me. And if I come up with an idea, I give it to him. And what we've decided to do, because he's a brilliant sales coach, he said, Suzy, why don't we just create a day for the authors because they're not very good at selling stuff. And he said, why don't we just create a day? We don't have to charge very much, but just get them in the room and teach them how to sell. And we can just double team them because we both know how to sell.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I said, okay, when you get back from Australia, let's pick a date and let's do it.
You see, it's a win-win. That's what I love. That's the best. And I think that is the revolutionary. Well, that's the revolution that needs to happen. This greedy model of I need to make as much money as I can and screw everybody else, or at other people's cost, or at the cost of the the environment, or ripping people off, or things like that. When it's a win-win-win model, I think that is going to change the way, it's going to change the way we do business. It's going to change the way we have relationships in work and with each other. And it is going to elevate all of us. And if we can elevate more people with us and say, hey, I don't want to just be successful on my own. I want to lift you up, and you lift your neighbor up, and you lift your son-in-law up, and let's lift everybody up because there's plenty. And that is where because you were studying metaphysical concepts long before Deepak Chopra was writing books. But when you come from that space where the intention is to lift everybody up, and that there is no scarcity. Yeah. That there's enough for everyone.
There's more than enough.
There's more than enough. Then the creativity.
If we treat it right.
Yes. Then the creativity. Then those creative juices flow like magic, right?
Yeah, and it's so much fun. And it's so much fun to when I'm working with somebody and I get an idea and I give it to them and all of a sudden they get it, and they go, oh. And then I could do this, couldn't I? I went, uh-huh. And then I could, uh-huh. Oh.
When you see that light bulb over their head, it's a beautiful moment.
It's a beautiful moment, and it's so much fun, and I just get a kick out of it. And then I'm talking so fast, and I'm giving idea after idea after idea. And I said, I hope you're writing this down, and I can't stop. I'm sorry, I can't stop.
Wow, what a beautiful life, Suzy Prudden. Suzy, we're almost out of time, and I want to let our listeners know what's the best way if they, first of all, if they want to check out Itty Bitty Publishing and of course the work that you do, if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to also become a best-selling author, how do they get in touch with you? Where do they go?
There's two ways. They can actually call me directly. I do answer my phone.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
You want to give your number out?
Yeah, if it's too much, I'll just get a new phone.
There you go. Go ahead, girl. Throw out that phone number.
It's 310-640-8885.
We got to do that again. So, yeah.
310-640-8885.
Okay.
And that is a cell phone. And so you can text me, which is actually better because I sometimes get so many calls that I don't see them.
And do you have a
but I will
website?
see the text.
Do you have a website so people can check out the?
That's what I was going to get.
Yeah.
Next is ITTY, ITTY BITTY, BITTY Publishing.com.
ITTYBITTYPublishing.com.
Yeah. And if you want to write to me, it's Suzy, SUZY, at Itty Bitty Publishing. That will go to Donna, who will send it to me. And if you want to, you can send me a note on there's a part on the front page that says if you want more information, put your information in here and I'll call you.
You are wonderful. Oh my gosh. You know what, Suzy, too, and the time went by so fast and we only have an hour. But would you come back on the show at another time and because we could talk about, first of all, we could talk forever and we could talk about specific things and get really in detail.
Yeah,
but I would love to have you back on.
Absolutely.
My guest again has been Suzy Prudden. She is the co-founder of Itty Bitty Publishing. And again, you can get more information by going to ittybittypublishing.com. She threw out her phone number, which is like so fantastic that you're going to have a phone number for her. It's 310-640-8885. And we want to remind people too that this show, if this is not just for you, but if this is something that you think would be an amazing opportunity for a family member, for a friend, please do share this program with them. You can do that by just sharing the YouTube video. Also, you can subscribe to the show as well by going to iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Podbean, Breaker, Stitcher. It's all available there if you want to make sure that you never miss an episode of Out of the Box with Christine. But I want to thank you again, Suzy, so much for the work that you do, and for all these itty bitty books and best-selling authors that they are. Thank you so much for the work that you do, and I hope you have many, many years of continued success.
Thank you. I'm having fun.
Yes, you are. All right, listeners, thanks so much again. And remember to tune in next week for another show. And as always, remember to stay outside of that box. Bye for now.